A heartbreaking story of an orphan bride who cried the entire wedding night. Hearing this painful story will bring tears to your eyes too. What happened with that orphan bride on her wedding night? To know the full story, be sure to watch the complete video. My name is Ania. I belong to a poor household. My parents had passed away in my childhood. The responsibility of raising me fell upon my uncle, but even my uncle soon grew tired of my responsibility. Because of this, my grandfather then took over the responsibility of raising me. My grandfather raised me with a lot of love, but even his companionship lasted only for a short while because he too soon passed away and became beloved to Allah. Now in this world, I had only a relation with my maternal uncle. In this world, apart from my uncle, I had no one. My uncle loved me very much, but my aunt used to stay irritated with me. I used to do all the housework. When I was little and went to school, even then my aunt was against my schooling. But my uncle forcefully had me educated till FA, intermediate level. After that, on my aunt's insistence, my uncle made me stay at home. My aunt used to say that if I didn't teach her, me, household chores, then what would people say? People would say she had no parents, there was only one aunt, and even she didn't teach her anything. In the end, people blame the ones who raise a child, right? And anyway, what would she achieve by getting educated? Hearing this, my uncle withdrew me from school and I got involved in household chores. Now I would wake up early in the morning, prepare breakfast, clean the entire house after breakfast, wash dishes, wash clothes, iron them. And even the smallest and biggest of tasks were assigned to me. I, like an obedient servant, would carry out every task in front of them. If any task went wrong, my aunt would often scold me and wouldn't even let me sit and eat with them. After everyone had eaten, I would eat their leftovers sitting in the kitchen. After that, I would wash the dishes, finish all the work, and then go to sleep. Then again, I had to wake up early the next morning. I would make things according to each person's preferences. My life had become just like that of a working machine, but I never brought any complaints to my lips because I knew that these were the people who had stood by me in difficult times, had given me shelter in their home. No matter how much I repaid their favors, it was not enough. No matter how much I thanked them, it was not enough. But even after working all the time, a person gets tired. I too would get tired. If I ever fell ill and stayed asleep, Auntie would come and stand over my head. Often, she would even slap me, once or twice without warning. She would scold me, and if I ever dared to answer back, she would immediately call Uncle and say, "Look at your niece. You've spoiled her for no reason." She talks back to me right in front of my face. Hearing Auntie's words, Uncle would also get angry, scold me harshly and walk away. I would cry and go silent. I knew by now that my life was written this way, only scolding and silently suffocating inside. My uncle also had a daughter who was my age. When I turned 18, proposals started coming for both of us. More proposals would come for her than me, but in the end, people would always choose me. Seeing this, Auntie began to hate me even more. She would always complain, "If this continues, our daughter will grow old sitting in our house, and look at this sly girl." She always finds some excuse to appear in front of the guests, and they end up liking her. She turned my uncle against me, and Uncle would also get angry with me. Neither uncle's daughter spoke to me, nor uncle or auntie. All of them stayed away from me. My status in that house was nothing more than that of a servant. In front of others, I was presented as a member of the family, but in reality, what I truly was, I knew that very well. I had stitched my lips shut in that house, but now Auntie had started worrying about my marriage. She knew that if I wasn't married off soon, then perhaps proposals wouldn't come for her own daughter, because I was more beautiful than her daughter. People always liked me instead. Her daughter was very modern. She wore very tight clothes and didn't even cover her head with a scarf. That's why instead of her, people would choose me. Considering this, Auntie thought of getting me married first. She spoke to a matchmaker woman and said, "If there's any proposal from a simple or small family, bring it for her." That woman brought many proposals for me, but Uncle didn't find them suitable. Then one day she brought a proposal for me from Fahad. Fahad was the only son of his parents and earned well. He worked in a company and also had one sister, too. Parents, such a big family too. The house wasn't bad either, the people were good too. Seeing all this, Uncle finalized my match there. Fahad's family was in a great hurry for the wedding, and because of that, the whole engagement and marriage happened very quickly, all at once. And I was married and came to Fahad's house. Fahad was very beautiful and quite handsome. Uncle had given me a good amount of dowry, but still it wasn't as much as what parents usually give. At first, Fahad's parents didn't say anything, but as soon as the wedding took place, I began to understand that these people had only married me for dowry. According to modern customs, they expected me to bring loads of dowry in trucks, but nothing like that happened. I was only given the essential items as dowry. When my in-laws found this out, I saw the expression on everyone's face turn away. From me. Even my husband turned his face away from me. On the very first night, he started saying to me, "Girls bring so much stuff from their parents' homes. And what has your uncle even given you that you sit here expecting me to treat you like a queen? Get up and go put my shoes over there and bring me another pair from there." I was still sitting on the bed, and as soon as my husband entered the room, this is what I heard. My heart leapt into my throat. There was a knot of tears that seemed stuck in my throat. I had thought that if I had a home of my own, I would live there freely with no one to scold me like this. But today I found out that people here are just the same. The world is very selfish, everyone only cares about themselves. Tears welled up in my eyes. I looked at my husband in disbelief. My husband was staring angrily at me. When I didn't. "Get up!" After a few moments, he shouted again. "Are you deaf or what? Can't you hear what I said?" Hearing Fahad's voice in my ears, I became extremely anxious. I quickly got up from the bed and picked up his shoes lying at his feet and put them aside. Then I brought him another pair from the wardrobe. As I had just placed the shoes, he kicked me, because of which I nearly fell. I grabbed the bed tightly. If the bed hadn't been there, I probably would have fallen. He quickly wore the slippers and walked toward the bathroom. After that, he picked up his bedsheet and quilt and moved toward the sofa. He said, "I can't sleep on this bed. I thought that when you bring your dowry, you'd also bring a nice bed. I'm tired of this bed now. Since you've come, you can sleep on it. I can't come near you." At that moment, tears streamed from my eyes. I thought, why is a girl's worth in her in-laws' house only measured by furniture or dowry? Here, I was being measured against wealth and property, because I had no wealth, no dowry. These people turned their faces away from me. Even on the very first night of the wedding, my husband spoke to me in this manner, in this tone. But I had faith that Allah Almighty would one day surely reward me for my patience. My grandfather used to say, "Never lose hope in the mercy of Allah at any moment, because He tests, and those who pass His tests receive special blessings in return." I had loved Fahad for the sake of Allah's will, and the moment he turned away from me, I quickly removed my jewelry, changed my clothes, performed ablution, and began to pray. That night I wasn't going to fall asleep, and I didn't. I spent the whole night sitting on the prayer mat. Tears streamed endlessly from my eyes. Fahad had gone off to sleep peacefully on the sofa. Everyone in that house was sound asleep. I was the only one still awake. It felt like I had been taken out of one hell and thrown into another. But this was a game of fate, and who can ever win against fate? I had lost too. It's not like I lacked beauty. I was very beautiful and well-educated too. My beauty was such that people would stop and stare in amazement. I don't know what. It was with my husband. The moment he saw me, he turned away from me. The next morning, after offering the dawn prayer, I saw that my husband was looking toward me. The incident from the night before, when he had pushed me harshly, came rushing back to my mind. Tears came to my eyes involuntarily. I had imagined he would treat me like a queen, but that didn't happen. On the very first night he had spoken to me in such a way that my soul trembled. No one spoke to me kindly, and my mother-in-law had handed me all the responsibilities one by one. I silently bowed my head to everything she said. I accepted everything she told me, and as the day began, I took over all my duties. My uncle and aunt didn't even follow the custom of bringing me breakfast. Well, I hadn't expected much from them anyway. I had now decided to live happily here. because that morning my husband's gentle demeanor had melted my heart. I was now happy. None of the problems in this house seemed like problems anymore, nor did any responsibilities feel like a burden. All I needed was a loving husband, and I had found him. A few days passed, and my husband's attitude toward me became very nice, but I was confused. Sometimes he would be kind, and other times cold. A year had passed since our marriage, and still there was no child. My mother-in-law began calling me Baron. This deeply disturbed me. I hadn't conceived yet, but that wasn't my fault. One day, after my husband left for the office, about an hour later, the house phone rang. I picked it up, and there was an unfamiliar voice on the other end. The caller said, "Are you speaking from Mr. Faiz's house?" I said yes. Then he said, "He has had a very bad accident, and he's no longer in this world." Hearing those words, it felt like the sky had collapsed on my head. Tears began streaming from my eyes. I cried out, "Who are you and what nonsense are you saying? He just left the house perfectly fine." The man calmly replied, "Madam, I've told you what I was informed. Now, whatever happens next is up to you. Please come quickly to the hospital and take your loved one's body." Hearing this, my voice shook so much that my mother-in-law and sister-in-law rushed over to me. Seeing my condition, my mother-in-law asked what had happened. Between sobs, I told her what the caller had said. Upon hearing it, she began to wail, beating her chest, and shouted, "You're a curse! Ever since you entered this house, nothing good has happened. Now you've even taken my son away from me." Saying this, she shoved me violently. I slammed into the wall. My forehead struck it and began to bleed. My sister-in-law gave me a look of pure disgust and walked away. My mother-in-law kept crying, calling out for my father-in-law. He rushed outside, and shortly afterward, an ambulance pulled up in front of our house. The sound of the siren made my heart pound in terror. Tears flowed uncontrollably from my eyes. That siren felt like a death knell. I covered my ears with both hands and wept. At 7 p.m., my husband's funeral was held. People started gathering in the house. Just as the funeral was about to proceed, my mother-in-law started slapping me and hurling abuse at me. I stood there crying, looking at her in disbelief. She didn't let me stay in the house. Didn't even care that I was in Idat, the mourning period after a husband's death. She threw me out of the house before my husband's body had even left for burial. I walked out silently, in tears, not knowing where to go. I had no real home to return to. Going back to my uncle's house felt impossible now. My aunt would probably never accept me. So I left that house, the very house from where my husband's funeral was still to depart. Dusk had already fallen. I was scared. I walked forward a little. All the streets were deserted. Darkness was slowly spreading, and I kept walking without knowing my destination. Fear consumed me. Just a short distance ahead, I heard a woman crying. I didn't know where it was coming from. I looked around. The streets were empty. I followed the sound, which led me to the corner of a narrow alley. When I reached there, I saw a woman sitting on the ground with a small child in her lap, crying bitterly. She would glance around, then cry out, "Is there no one out there, no servant of God, and who will help me? I'm helpless. If no one helps me, my baby will die." Hearing her words sent a strange feeling through me. I walked closer and asked, "What happened? Why are you crying? Who are you, and why are you sitting here?" Through her tears, she said, "Madam, my baby is very sick. The hospital staff won't admit us unless I have money." She kept sobbing, saying, "My baby is in a terrible condition. If he doesn't get treatment, he'll die." Her pain moved me deeply. I looked at the sick child lying helpless in her arms, and then at the crumpled 1,000-rupee note in my own hand, the last bit of money I had. Somehow, I had managed to bring it with me when I was forced out. I hadn't been allowed to take any belongings or clothes, just this single note. I stood there in silence for a moment, thinking. Then, without hesitation, I placed that 1,000-rupee note into the woman's hand and said gently, "Please take your child to the hospital, quickly. He needs this more than I do." She stared at the worn, folded note in her hand, then looked up at me, tears brimming in her eyes. She said, "Daughter, may Allah bless you. May He give you more than you gave. May you always remain blessed with your husband." Hearing those words stung like a fresh wound. My eyes filled with tears. She saw me crying and gently took my hand, making me sit beside her. Then she asked softly, "Tell me, what happened to you? Why are you so upset?" I didn't respond. She asked again with more concern this time. So I finally spoke. "Something terrible has happened to me. My husband left home this morning perfectly fine, but just 1 hour later, his body was brought back. And before the funeral could even begin, my mother-in-law blamed me, called me a curse, beat me, and threw me out of the house. I have nowhere to go now. I don't know what to do." Listening to my story, she placed a comforting hand on my shoulder and said gently, "Daughter, go back to your in-laws' house quietly. A great blessing awaits you there. Your fate is about to change. You'll receive news that will turn everything in your favor." Her words surprised me. I thought to myself, what is this woman even saying? She seemed mad, completely delusional. I replied, "How can you say that I'll get good news? My husband is dead. They've thrown me out of that house. They will never accept me again." Hearing my words, the woman smiled and said, "Just listen to me. Go back to your house just once. Allah is with you. You'll see." With that, she gave me her blessings, stood up and disappeared around the corner, taking her child to the hospital. But her words stayed behind, lingering in my heart, troubling me. Why would she say something like that? I stood up and hesitantly started walking again. But her words had taken root in my mind. Something deep inside nudged me to turn around, to go back, just once. And so, I did. When I reached my in-laws' house, what I saw made the ground slip from beneath my feet. I couldn't believe my eyes. All the people who had come to mourn and the crowd, the chaos, and were gone. The charpoy that was supposedly holding my husband's body was now empty. Only rose petals were scattered across it. The scent of incense still lingered in the air, but the house was silent, eerily silent. I was stunned. Slowly, cautiously, I stepped inside. My heart was pounding as I looked around. Then I heard voices, soft whispers. I followed the sound and it led me to the adjacent room. That voice, it was unmistakable. It was my husband's. He was saying, "We had to put on such a big act. Just to get rid of her, she just wouldn't leave us alone." Hearing those words, I felt like my soul had been ripped from my body. How could he be speaking? He was supposed to be dead. Then I remembered they hadn't let me see his face. They told me his face was unrecognizable because of the accident. I kept listening. My mother-in-law said, "Finally, we're rid of her. She didn't even take the jewelry. Now we can easily get you married to Nasia." And Nasia, his cousin, the one he always liked. I stood frozen. Tears welled up in my eyes. My world had shattered. Just then, I stepped into the room. My father-in-law rushed toward me, clearly flustered. "Beta, it's not what you think. Let me explain." I raised my hand, stopping him mid-sentence. Then I looked around. My mother-in-law was speechless, and my husband looked at me with wide, startled eyes. I walked up to him, grabbed his arm tightly, and broke down in tears. "If you wanted to be rid of me, you should have just told me. I would have walked away quietly. Why did you have to create such a cruel drama? You were everything to me. I loved you so much. Did you ever think about that?" Something shifted in his expression. His head dropped. For the first time, I saw shame in his eyes. My mother-in-law stepped forward and said, sharply, "Listen, girl, be quiet now. We only brought you here for household work, not to become a burden. But you started acting like you owned the place." Her words hit me like a slap. I was stunned, numb. I couldn't believe this was my reality, that these were the people I had called my family. But at least now, for the first time, I was seeing everything clearly. I was finally looking into my husband's face, and into the truth I had refused to see before. For the first time, I said to him, "What did I ever ask from you? Except for a little time, a little respect, and your love?" I sobbed as I spoke, pouring out everything that had been buried inside me. My husband sat there silently, unable to meet my gaze. My mother-in-law tried to speak, but he stopped her too. After a few moments, he finally looked up. His face was wet with tears. He said, "Forgive me. I did wrong by you. But I promise, From this moment on, no one will ever mistreat you again. When you were gone for a short while, I realized just how much I love you. Yes, I did tell my mother that I would marry Natsia, but my heart only bears witness to my love for you. Please, forgive me." As he spoke, he folded his hands in front of me. I was stunned. I couldn't understand how everything had changed so suddenly. It felt like the tide had turned in an instant. Wiping away my tears, I reached out and held his hands tightly. My mother-in-law stood silently, watching everything unfold. I silently thanked Allah, my heart full of gratitude. And then I thought back to that woman. Who was she? How did she know what was going to happen? How could she say with such certainty that everything would be okay if I returned home? Whoever she was, maybe she was truly sent by Allah. And angel in disguise, to guide and help me in my darkest hour. I kept thanking Allah in my heart, because what I had gained today was priceless. I had reclaimed my rightful place, something only Allah could grant. Indeed, Allah rewards patience in the most beautiful ways. So, dear friends, no matter how hard life gets, never give up. Face every hardship with courage and faith. I hope today's story touched your heart. If it did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.